Hi, Coach. Neat moments there with Curtis Appleton and Matt Lynch getting placed on scholarship. Could you talk about each guy and what made you want to put them both on scholarship?
Both of those guys were integral pieces for us last year, where they made some productive, really input on both sides of the ball. Curtis was doing some really good things for us on our defensive side, and he's he's grown at the safety position. He's in all of our special teams. He's one of our core special teams players. So, part of me is, even though we're trying to elevate everything in our program, we want the competition to be fierce at every position. I also want our walk-ons to feel like if you do walk on at Colorado, that you feel like if I work hard and I can get in the depth chart and I can contribute on special teams, I have a chance maybe to earn a scholarship. And that's what these two guys did. Matt, transferred in here last year from UCLA, and he came in and quickly, acclimated himself and played. He was an integral piece to us offensively last year when Brady got hurt. So it was, that position has been a big struggle for us. We have a lot of tight ends there now this year, but last year we only have about 4 or 5, and we had to bring a defensive lineman over. We had to convert some people to kind of change their position, and I think Matt kind of led our team last year when Brady being out, and he continues to do those positive things for us. So those guys are well deserved.
Next to Brian Howell.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, it was not a Folsom field, but did you sense any energy from the guys when they come out and they see their parents and they see, a few hundred fans out here watching them?
Yeah, I can tell that, there was a little bit more, excitement about a practice than normal. It was good to see some people in the stands, and it's I was telling them earlier before the scrimmage, I said, man, it's great to have some people watching us, for a change. And just imagine in the fall, this place is going to be packed, and obviously it's going to be 50,000 people and people excited and cheering us on. And we're looking forward to that opportunity when the fall comes and it's ready to to kick off and have a great season. But it was good to just have a change of scenery in terms of what the people at least watching us. That's definitely a positive change of scenery for us.
Pat Rooney.
Hey, Karl, just wondering, can you describe or quantify at all what it'll mean for your team just to get these spring practices in the full spring as opposed to last year, what it'll mean for the group going into the fall?
Well, it meant a lot for all of us. And, I mentioned that before with particularly our youngest players, our guys that are first year players or first, freshman players. We had some transfers that come in too from the portal. They're here. It was really an important step for them to kind of get a teaching medium to grow in our systems. And that's what spring has allowed us to do. So, I think everyone benefited because, I'm a new coach. It's my first spring. So it's really their first spring. So now it's really, there was a great melding of sorts, even me as a coach, with knowing my players a little bit better in this environment, and then our players getting a chance to get taught fundamentally, really without any rush to it, but to really emphasize the technique and details of what the position coaches are trying to do. But I thought today, for the most part, offensively, they looked pretty sharp. They did some really good positive things. It wasn't perfect, but I thought they moved the ball and looked like they can be efficient and can do some positive things. I think defensively too, like I said, it's been that way this spring where it's been a give and take, situation both offensively and defensively. So, we still got a lot of work to go, and we know the summer is going to be critically important, but we think that's a good first step leading into the break.
Next to Justin Guerrero.
Karl, Joe Davis was the first tailback to take the field today. And just when you talk about the conversation within that running backs room, a lot of capable guys, it seems like it's easy for the conversation to kind of gravitate towards Jarek Broussard, given the year he had last year, and Fontenot and the excitement around Rashad Clayton. But what have you seen out of Joe Davis this spring? And do you feel like he's a guy who maybe is a little bit of an underdog within that room, given that the guys around him?
I would highly suggest every one of those backs should really have that chip on their shoulder about being the underdog. I like how you said that, because we're going to use them all, and we have to. It's going to be the hot man is the one that stays. It's going to be that type of situation, and I think all of them are very confident in their own abilities. I think it's a really a good situation for us because we got some quality depth there. But it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for Broussard. He had a great year last year and stepping up, and everybody has the expectations that it's going to be even better this next year. Well, he's got to fend off a lot of people for that to happen, and there's a really good stable that's competing for it. So it's not going to be easy, is my point. And it's a new year. And I told the team that, just because what we did in 2020 has really nothing to do with going on in 2021. So we're going to field the best players we can coming out of training camp. Whoever that we think are the best are going to be the ones we start with, at the first game against Northern Colorado. So they know the competition is fierce, and I'm glad that we have the situation that we have in the backfield.
Back to Brian Howe.
Coach, we've talked a lot about the young receivers throughout spring, but today we saw Vontae and Dimitri both come up with several good catches. How beneficial is it to have two guys like that kind of leading that group? Obviously Dimitri went out at the end, but what does it mean to have those two guys and what they've done for that group?
Well, they're young players I really don't really see them as leaders yet. That's what they want to. They want to, but they're not there yet. They need to start taking care of themselves and still being consistent and performing and being dependable. Those are things that I think that really lend into part of the leadership process. Is when guys look up to you in your position, is when you're the guy that is consistently making plays. So, but that area, I'm happy about what both of those guys can bring, but they still have a long ways to go. So I'm not really classifying them as leading the group yet. We need to make sure that group gets better. This summer is going to be really important, and we need those two guys and many of the guys in that group to really take on the work that's going to help us be a great receiving core. But I think that group has some talent. It just needs to continue to come forward, and it needs to have a consistency, in their production as well.
Jack Karl.
Hi, Coach. Joshka Gustav had a couple big sacks there early, and John Van Diest also had a few big tackles as well. I was just wondering what you liked about the linebacker group, also with the absence of Nate Landman, and kind of how they stepped up today.
Yeah, I would say the guy that's probably had a really good spring and very consistent and has been at every practice has been John Van Diest. He's I think he's made huge strides over the spring, and that's an experienced player that really got a chance because of the depth there, really improving themselves. I think that inside linebacker position is really, really athletic and talented. Unfortunately, towards the end of spring, guys like Marvin Ham and Quinn Perry, they had to miss time because of COVID, but those guys, they needed more reps because they were coming on and doing some really good things. And, Robert Barnes, our new addition there, he's really picked up on our system and has become a very consistent performer as well. So I think the inside linebacker position, considered how it looked last year, looks completely different this year. And, Alvin Williams has been a really positive, addition, moving from outside to inside. You just mentioned about Joshka. Joshka's had an excellent spring. Same thing with Carson Wells, had an excellent spring. Devin Grant is getting better. He's getting better. And Jamar Montgomery was having one of his better springs too until COVID hit him as well. So we just ended up losing a few guys in terms of practice time, in these last 2 weeks of the spring. But we finished. But it would have been a much stronger impact on the defensive side if some of those guys, particularly the inside linebackers, were still on the field.
And Sean Keeler.
Hey, Karl, apologize if you touched on this earlier, but I wanted to kind of reiterate your thoughts on if some of these quarterbacks made it more difficult or more fun for you as you evaluate them with some of the things we saw on the field today and what you've seen the last 15 practices.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make it. It's a great problem to have, Sean. I'd rather have three or four guys that are really close in level of play, really battling it out, because I know that that's going to extend them to be as good as they can be in terms of their performance under that type of pressure. And I think, with B-Lou and with JT and Drew's got some reps, and Grant Cicerone and Jordan Wolverton, those are the guys that practiced this spring. They all got better. bet the younger players got some reps towards the end of this scrimmage. But I think JT has done a tremendous job of catching up, being a guy who's a new guy on the block. So it's going to be a great competition. You know, Sam knows it. You know, he's trying to get himself back in healthy and get in a healthy fashion so that he can start working this summer. But that's a good problem to have. I'd rather have that scenario than to say that I got to pick one of two guys and really that's all that we had. So it's a good problem to have.